April 2020, Glencore announced intentions to place MOPANI copper mines on care and maintenance. This meant that over 15,000 workers would be laid off and sent back home. However, the Zambian government this past week announced a landmark decision to take over the struggling MOPANI copper mine through ZCCM-IH in what others sympathetic to the governing Patriotic Front have termed it as Zambianization of the mineral resource. In this case, copper mineral resource. In this case, copper, while in the pessimistic, term it as a raw deal. On tonight's edition of The Assignment, we evaluate this particular controversial issue that has taken over much of the waves. My guest this evening is Executive Director of ZCCM-IH, that is Mr. Mabvuto Chipata. Good evening, sir, and welcome to tonight's edition of The Assignment.
Good evening, and good evening, viewers.
It's good to have you. I must mention that for the very first time, you've come to our platform.
Yes, and I think it's very important that we clarify a number of issues on this important discussion.
Yeah, I think firstly, let's begin off from what could have motivated government to take up this huge decision to take over the running of MOPANI copper mines.
Yeah, so firstly, before we get to government decision, as ZCCM-IH, we have a strategy. We have a new strategy in which we want to focus on mining, and we want to make ZCCM-IH the leader in the mining sector. So in our 2020 to 2026 strategic plan, we have said that we are going to ensure that we increase our shares in most of the mines. As you know, currently, in most of the mines, we have between 10 to 20% shares. This is from privatization. But this kind of model has not worked for years. Up to now, most of the mining companies do not pay dividend. Very few of them pay dividend for the past 20 years. So in our new model, we have said, look, whenever an opportunity presents itself, we will take it. And one such opportunity came on its way, on our way. Glencore said that they wanted to put the mine on care and maintenance. And we evaluated the offer, we made an offer, and within our mandate, our strategy 2020-2026, this fell within that space. So in addition to the fact that obviously 15,000 jobs were at stake, for us we are taking a commercial decision. It's an opportunity. MOPANI is sitting on very huge deposits of copper, and we think that this is the right step.
But get it to understand, when MOPANI did come to you, Glencore did come to you, to state that they wanted to put the mine on care and maintenance. But what were some of the underlying reasons why they were about to take that particular decision?
Look, if you see at the time when Glencore made that decision, this was in the middle of the COVID situation. It has just started last year. And also the copper prices were down. We're in the range of, we're below $5,000 per ton. And so it is possible at that time that they did not see that the copper price would bounce back. But in any case, Glencore have got their own strategy. And it's not up to us to find out why they are doing what they are doing. They have their own strategy, and we have our own strategy. So that fell within us. So we made an offer to them to buy.
But really, just were a lot of issues, when that was brought, to the fore in 2020 of April, when they finally decided that they wanted to leave the country in terms of putting, the mine on care and maintenance, and quite a number of issues were raised, like you've mentioned, issues of COVID-19. To your standpoint, would you still state that that was justifiable?
For them, is your question that was it justifiable for them to pull out? Look, when you are running an operation, a mine, so based on their own assessment at that time, indeed the copper prices had collapsed at that time. They were below $5,000. So their approach was that they wanted to preserve value in the mine by putting the mine on care and maintenance. Care and maintenance meant that they would scale down staff, they would scale down a lot of the operations to a level where they would wait for an opportunity where maybe the copper prices start rising again. So they were going to put the mine on care and maintenance, wait until their conditions until they thought that the conditions were now right. So at the time, they were thinking that, it is really up to them. But for us, we saw an opportunity. Copper is likely to continue to be a very highly demanded resource. The electric vehicle, the electric world now, which is coming through, means that the demand for copper and cobalt and all the battery minerals will be very high. So we are taking a long-term view. We took a long-term view. We realized that despite the fact that the copper prices were low at that time, the long-term fundamentals for copper are very, very promising. So that's why we've taken the decision.
Now that you've taken the decision to completely run this particular mine, help us understand what this transaction means for the country.
Right. So what this transaction means is, number one, we have a mine, a full operation there, a mine that we own. We will be able to benchmark our mine with other mines that are run by private people. Remember, there's always a discussion in the mine. Whenever there's changes in the tax regime, a lot of mining companies complain. And because we are not running our own mine, we are not able to have a proper argument. So this time around, we are also running a mine. So we'll be able to have a proper debate whenever there are any changes in legislation or any conditions in the market. We have a mine that we are running. Number two, for this particular transaction, the benefits to the country are wide. If you know what's happening now, a lot of these mines are owned by foreign companies, and they keep their sales value outside the country. In this transaction, what is going to happen is that we have signed an offtake agreement with Glencore. They will buy our copper. 20% of the copper will remain in this country, so that Zambians who want to do businesses, who want to do industries for copper wires, manufacturing, can start using this copper to manufacture wires here, so that we don't have to start, we don't continue importing wires when we are the ones producing copper. So there's a big opportunity here for industrialization, for local people. Number two, once Glencore takes that 80% copper, they will take their share of the money that is required to pay off the debt. The balance of the money will be paid back to MOPANI. This money will come and sleep in our banks here. So for the first time, we'll have a situation where that when you sell your copper, if you have sold $100 million worth of copper, $100 million or $80 million of that copper value will come and sit here. We expect, therefore, to see that as we go on, the pressure on the foreign currency, on the exchange rate, the Zambian kwacha to the dollar, we expect that this will be reduced. So there are many other benefits that will come in terms of local suppliers as well. A company that we own ourselves means that we can encourage our local people to supply to the mine. That also helps to improve the livelihood of the people, in addition to the jobs that we are creating.
How much will there be in our copper? 80% of our copper will be bought by Glencore. How much will they be buying our copper at? The
copper price is linked to the London Metal Exchange price. So the price at which Glencore will buy the copper is the market price. It is the same market price linked to the London Metal Exchange price. So, for example, currently the price is about $8,000 per ton. So if we sell copper this month to Glencore, they will buy it at $8,000 per ton.
And so it's the same, there's not much difference really.
We are not losing anything.
And precisely my next question, because, many have suggested that we're on the losing end as a country in terms of this particular transaction that you've gotten into. Maybe help us understand who is the big winner, in this whole transaction.
The big winner is ZCCM-IH. Zambians are the winners. For the first time, we are able to have a mine that we run. Those revenues from copper, when we make the profits will accrue to ZCCM-IH. ZCCM-IH is a company that is owned by the government, by the people. You, Andrew, you can buy shares in ZCCM-IH. It is listed here in Osaka. The profits that will come from MOPANI will come to ZCCM-IH, and it will accrue to our shareholders, the government of the Republic of Zambia through IDC, NAPSA. Zambians, they contribute to NAPSA. 15% of ZCCM-IH shares are owned by NAPSA. So you have a direct benefit when we make money. So there's no road deal. There's no road deal.
There's no road deal in this particular transaction.
There's no road.
Let's get to other critical issues before we can get to the capacity that we have as a country to run our own mine. A number of issues still have arisen to this very effect that this entire transaction is very political. What do you make of such allegations from members of the general public and other opposition political parties?
No, those assertions are really unfounded. Like I started with, when we started this interview, we said we have a strategic plan. We planned about this last year, that whenever there's an opportunity for us to increase shares in any mine, we would do it. So our viewers and can you go to our strategic plan on the website? So as far as we're concerned, this is something that we started planning for last year. So there's the assertions that these are political and otherwise, well, but we have a business to run.
And that, only a few, I'll read some of the issues that, other opposing political parties have risen, have arisen in terms of this particular issue. But again, very critical, Mr. Chipata, that I want you to clarify on is another issue concerning the capacity that we have as a country to run our own mines. But before that, before Glencore decided to ultimately now decide that, the shares will be gotten, totally to ZCCM-IH, weren't there any other alternatives that were brought to the table?
Look, I think for them, they had no other alternative. They indicated that they wanted to put the mine on care and maintenance. And we said, no, we think that there's no need to put the mine on care and maintenance. In that case, we made an offer, can we talk and see if we can buy the mine? And they said, yes, they are willing to sell.
So that was the only alternative at that time?
We made an offer.
They accepted it?
And they accepted.
Do we have capacity as a country?
That question is very interesting, and I want our viewers there to see this way. ZCCM 20 years ago was running the mines in Zambia. It was the only one which was mining copper. All these were divisions of ZCCM. So if we go back that time, one will ask, where did the capacity come from? Where did the capacity to run those mines come from? Did it come from where? It came from within. Beyond that, 20 years down the line, we have a lot of Zambians who are within this country, who are also in the diaspora, who are running mines. Within ZCCM itself, we have a team of experts, we have engineers, we have got mining engineers, we have got geologists, we have got metallurgists, who worked during the ZCCM time many years ago. They are still with us, some of them. So when we ask ourselves to say, do you have capacity? The question you're asking is, are there Zambians in Zambia who are mining engineers, who are metallurgists? Are they there? Are there geologists in Zambia? The answer is yes. There are many geologists in Zambia who were working in ZCCM many years ago. And there are many Zambians currently who are working in those mines. In Konkola Copper Mine itself, in Lumwana, in the Kansanshi Mine, there are Zambians at senior management level who are operating from there. In any case, let's assume that for any reason we find any skill that we need and we can't find it in Zambia or in ZCCM-IH, we will hire anybody from anywhere in the world. We can pay anybody. We can hire anybody from Australia, from China, from Chile. They can come and work for us. So I think that out there, the question of do you have capacity, I think Zambians should know that they have the capacity.
Would you point at one particular example where we've successfully run a mine? Or would you point as indigenous Zambians?
I've said ZCCM was running the mines in Zambia.
Was?
Yes. All these mines which are privatized, these new mines you hear, MOPANI,
of course.
Konkola, Kansanshi, these were run by Zambians.
I love the fact that you've brought that, to the fore. Why did you decide to privatize as a country? Is it because, we were unable to run our own mines?
No. You see, if you go back to privatization, the factors or the environment at that time was such that the copper prices had collapsed. The copper prices collapsed. That is the only reason. And at that time, it was very difficult to attract investment. So that's what happened in 2000. The copper prices collapsed. That's the only thing that happened. The mines were run by ZCCM. The entire copper belt that you see today was ZCCM, Kitwe, Mufrira, all those towns. That's what happened. So we have run mines here. People from outside, Europeans, used to come and work in our mines, supervised by Zambians. So if one says you don't have capacity, so where did the capacity come from that time? So we will create the capacity. If we are missing in any capacity here, we will create it. A lot of Zambians were trained by ZCCM. We had all schools being run. That's what we want. So the question of does Zambia have the Zambia should not question. They must have confidence. They must not question themselves. We have the capacity. They are there. Zambians are here to run the mines.
Allow me also to pose some questions that the mayor of the city of Lusaka did ask to ZCCM-IH, on one of his platforms, and allow me to extend them to you. Maybe you could address them. He raised about 6 questions regarding this particular transaction that you ran. He asked who was the advisor to the transaction and what was their commission. Are you able to respond to that question?
Oh, but you see, to ask what was the commission of the advisor, I mean, we do transactions with people. We cannot start discussing confidential matters. What was their commission? That question does not arise. We have advisors. Imara are our advisors to the transaction. Imara Botswana. And we have a team of experts who are working with us to advise us on the transaction.
He raises another very important question. Who was the appointed transaction broker and at what fee?
No, the advisors are Imara, Botswana. They are working with stockbrokers Zambia here.
All right, let me quickly get to other questions that he posed, because he did get quite a number of reactions and people wanted to get clarity on these issues. He said, look, these are very questions that will be asked even 15 years from now, and so it's better you clarify them as they arise. He did ask again which commercial bank is handling this big transaction and at what fee.
Yeah, so if you see, if one has seen that that transaction, there's no cash that is exchanging except $1. That transaction, there's no cash that is moving. We have a debt of $1.5 billion that has been written down to 1.5 billion from $4.8 billion to 1.5 billion. This debt is sitting on MOPANI. So all we have done now is that we are going to make sure that MOPANI pays this loan between 10 to 17 years. That's what is happening there. Then we will pay for the shares. We will pay $1.
Interesting.
That's all.
Well, he does ask another question. I think this is the last question that he did ask on his platform. He says, where is the deposit of first installment payment going to come from, and how much would that be?
So, as you can see, the transaction here, there's no money that is exchanging hands. The debt is already sitting on MOPANI. There was a debt of $4.8 billion, written down to 1.5 billion. It is on MOPANI. MOPANI will be paying slowly to Glencore as they sell the copper. ZCCM is only going to pay Glencore $1. So which bank will handle the $1? Is that the question?
Well, I need clarification on that.
So yeah, so Glencore have got their banks. We'll pay them from our bank. We have got banks. We'll pay them $1. That's what it is.
What is the current value of MOPANI copper mines?
What do you mean? What is the current value of MOPANI?
How much are we going to be expected? How much in value, do we expect to be getting as turnover, once we start, operationalizing this particular mine?
Look, currently, MOPANI is producing at about 34,000 tons per annum. The plan over a period of 5 years is to ramp up production to about 150,000 tons per annum. Okay, so if you think about 100,000 tons at a price of $8,000 per ton, you are talking about around $800 million per year in terms of sales value. Yes. So we believe that MOPANI, as we stand now, its valuation is in excess of $1 billion.
Thanks for the clarification. Well, I've been asked by director that we need again much more clarity on this very issue that is causing a lot of controversy in the country, because many still feel that there's something wrong, in this particular transaction, and people need clarity, Mr. Chipata, on the exact details contained in the transaction. I do know for a fact that you did answer that 80% of the copper for a certain period will be sold back to Glencore, but maybe you could highlight some of the other details that were involved in this particular transaction. Okay.
So the structure is as simple as we have put it. We are buying MOPANI at $1. We are paying $1 to Glencore. MOPANI is taking a debt of $1.5 billion, which they will pay over a period of 10 to 17 years. Then we have signed an offtake agreement with Glencore to buy our copper. We could have sold it to anybody else, but it was easier for us because Glencore are already international traders. And the price is the price linked to the London Metal Exchange. So that's the way the transaction is. As simple as that.
Nothing else.
If we manage to pay the money quickly, yes, if we produce enough within a short period of time, we are able to pay back that loan from Glencore. That will be it. Glencore will be gone.
Maybe clarity. Where is the money going to come from? Maybe just clarity again, because many feel still that, look, as a country, we're already, in debt burden of excess to 18.5 billion. That is both, domestic and external debt. An addition of 1.5 billion is just adding to our burden. Where are we getting the money from to?
Okay, so to understand this debt, this is debt on an asset. This is debt on a company that is operating. So the debt will be paid from the copper. It is not like, government borrowing directly. This is a company, MOPANI, that borrows money to finance its operations. This is typical of any mining companies. That's the way mines are funded. You don't expect someone to have $1 billion in their pocket to come and invest in a mine. It doesn't happen. A lot of these mines, if you check all of them, you will find huge amounts of debt. The way that debt is paid is you tie it now to the copper sales. As you sell your copper, you pay for the debt. The debt will be paid by MOPANI. There are enough reserves at MOPANI. As we sit here currently, we know that they are sitting on about 140 million tons of ore at MOPANI. That is worth almost $21 billion at MOPANI as we sit. So $1.5 billion is nothing in relation to the amount of copper that is at MOPANI as we sit. In terms of what the deposits in the ground, we are talking about 2.6 million tons of copper on the ground, based on the estimates that we are looking at. This is worth over $20 billion. So $1.5 billion is nothing compared to what is at MOPANI. So when we ask the question, where will this money come from? It will be paid from the copper. We have reports of how much copper is at MOPANI. $1.5 billion in relation to $21 billion is nothing. So this will be paid after paying all the expenses, the capital investment. We need $300 million in the first 3 years, like you have said. We need $300 million to complete some of the projects that we already started. We need $100 million this year, another $100 million, another the other year. But MOPANI is sitting at $21 billion worth of copper on the ground. So $1.5 billion is nothing.
I'll come back again to that, but initially it was KCM, now MOPANI. But another mine that is of great interest for this country is the Kansaseli, gold mine that was given to foreigners. Why didn't we also decide to put it in our, strategic plan? Like you said, we've got a plan from 2021 to 2026 to ensure that we own much of the shares in these our mines. Why didn't we, own many shares in Kansaseli as opposed to giving it to foreigners?
Yes, you have asked. Kansaseli is not owned by foreigners. Kansaseli, we own ZCCM-IH through Zambia Gold. Yes, Zambia Gold is the company that we have registered to deal with the gold in Zambia. Zambia Gold Company owns 70% shares in Kasensere Gold Mine. The other shareholders are Zambians who own 12.5% each, the people who had the previous license holders. We have partnered with Zambians. And then 5% is owned by the local people, by the chiefdom. So there's no foreigner in Kasensere. There's no foreigner. No. So, sometimes people just, there's no foreigner in Kasensere. We own 70% as Zambia Gold. 12.5% is owned by the other local, other companies. 5% by the local people.
How would you describe, the deal that we're getting off, many of these mines that are owned by, foreigners in our country? Are we getting a good deal? Are we getting a raw deal? Because obviously, you did make mention of the fact that we're projecting that, look, within this time frame, we need to ensure that we get much more shares. If you're going to arrive at that particular point, then there's something wrong with the current state in terms of the deal that we are getting as a country from foreign investors. Just explain to us what kind of deal we are getting from most of the mines that are owned by foreigners.
Yeah. So this is the mischief we are trying to correct. This is the mischief we are trying to correct. The mischief of having minority stakes. What we noticed, or what we have observed over the past 20 years, is despite the fact that copper prices, even when copper prices went up, very few of our companies in which we own these shares paid dividends. They continued to report losses, even when the copper prices were high. So we have to correct this mischief. ZCCM-IH owns these shares on behalf of Zambians. We need, when these companies make profit, we need that money to be distributed as dividend on behalf of the people of Zambia. So over the past 20 years, very few of these mines have been paying dividend. They continue to report losses. But because we are small shareholders, we are not in management, of course, we only sit on boards. We are not there to see what they are doing. That is why we are taking this move. And MOPANI is just one. We are looking for other opportunities to increase our shares in these mines. Any other opportunity, we will take it. Because we have to begin to control our destiny. You cannot have a situation where 80% of this economy is controlled by the mining sector, and we, the Zambians, are not there. We have seen many lessons. South Africa itself was developed by mining. Australia and many companies. The mining can be a catalyst of development. The only issue is that these resources will finish one day. Therefore, it is important for this country to get the best benefit from the mining sector and use that money to reinvest in other sectors, so that when the copper finishes, we would have developed agriculture, tourism, and other sectors. That can only be achieved if we ourselves as Zambians
are running the mines.
We are running the mines.
Do you think, to some extent, the foreign investors that are running our mines have taken advantage of us as a country?
Look, if you are not in control of the situation, anyone will do what they want. Anyone will do it. So we need to change that narrative. Yes.
And maybe clarity, for the clarity's sake, and these are questions that many Zambians have. Is it just perception that you have, Mr. Chipata, that look, mines have been declaring that they've been declaring dividends, and they would say that we've been operating on a loss? From your standpoint, would you think, because you say we're not there to see whether indeed they've been running on losses. From your standpoint, would you confidently say that maybe this is just a mere perception and you don't have any facts to it?
No, it's not a perception. We are the ones who see what every mine is doing. We know the reports. We sit on those boards. It's not a perception. We know. We study what they are doing at the mines. We know the costs. We see what they are doing. It's not a perception. We know that during the time when the copper prices were even as high as 9,000, some of the mines continue to report losses.
Critical question that has come through. What will happen, to the tax that MOPANI owes to ZRA in excess of about $4 billion? Will the buyer pay ZRA?
I think the arrangements between MOPANI and ZRA, those are handled by ZRA. So I think those are tax issues. So there's a way in which those are being dealt with. So I don't think I can comment on that. ZRA deals with tax issues. So I think I'm not competent to comment on what happens on tax issues. But MOPANI is a company, and it has got a duty to pay its taxes to government. And ZRA and MOPANI have a relationship in which they manage those things. So
yeah, again, you did mention in our discussion that MOPANI will be buying our copper. A very important question has come. Well, MOPANI is standing at buying our copper at the market price. How will they make the profit?
Oh, okay. So your question is how will MOPANI make the profit? Okay. Look, it's just like any business. You sell your copper, you take out your expenses, operating costs, capital expenditure, and other costs, and if you operate your business as a business, meaning that the value of the copper that you are selling is higher than your costs, you make a profit. The price at which they sell the copper is the market price that anyone else buys the copper. So it's an issue of running a business. Revenue versus costs. That's all. What we are going to focus on to make sure is, one, we are going to ensure that we increase capacity. We increase the production at MOPANI from the current 34,000. We'll take it to 60,000, to 100,000, up to 150,000 tons. At that level, MOPANI will be operating very, very, very profitably, assuming the copper price continue to rise. Number two, we are making sure that we examine all the costs to ensure that the company operates efficiently. The areas where we can save the costs, those will be done to make sure that the company is operating efficiently. So in mining, you need to focus on your costs, because don't forget, the price is determined by market forces. It can fall, it can rise. Like now, it's rising, but it can also fall. In the period when it falls, you must make sure that you are operating efficiently so that you are able to make a profit. So it is running as a business. That's the way to make money. Sales versus costs.
We'll take a short break, Mr. Chipata, then thereafter we continue this very important discussion that borders on national interest.
Thank you.
And in the studio, I'm privileged to be joined in by CEO of ZCCM-IH, that is Mr. Mabvuto Chipata. Before we went on a short break, we were looking at a number of issues that have to do with the content of the transaction that has taken effect, and whether really as a country we'll be making profit off this particular deal, or which one is a winner between us and Glencore. But continuing, from where we ended from, where do you think this particular issue has sparked controversy, when we should be celebrating as a country that now we are taking over the mines?
In fact, well, it is important that our shareholders, who are the Zambians out there, because we're a public entity, we are owned by the people of Zambia. There are many Zambians out there who have got shares in ZCCM-IH, in addition to what I indicated to already. So Zambians out there are entitled to ask. And I think it is fair. And our job is to explain to them. First of all, it is a big step that we are making. It has never been done in the past 20 years. This is a big step. So you expect that, obviously, people will have questions. And they are correct in asking the questions. Do you have capacity? How are you going to do this? Initially, if you remember, the question was, government or ZCCM doesn't have the money to buy MOPANI. Okay, we heard that. But we have structured the transaction. It's a cashless transaction. Okay, so people are free to ask because the transaction is big. We are taking a big move in the mining sector. It hasn't been done for the past 20 years. So what we would like to encourage Zambians there is let them join hands with us. They are entitled to ask questions, and our job is to clarify, and we'll continue to clarify until all of us can see the opportunity that we are seeing. For us, we are seeing the opportunity. Which opportunity has got a lot of benefits for Zambia, and it's the beginning of what we are trying to do.
You earlier spoke about increasing, production of copper at MOPANI copper mines. Very good strategy, but how will this be done? Okay, so
already Glencore had already started recapitalizing the mine. There are new projects that they already started. Some of them are 90% complete. This was intended already to increase production capacity at the mine. So some of the projects are already almost complete, because it was realized that if that was not done, in the long term, MOPANI was not going to be sustainable. So there are capital investment projects. That's why when we talk about this 1.5 billion debt that we have left there, that is representing the new equipment, the new technology that is already been invested in. It's only remaining with a few aspects to complete. So that is the way production will be increased, by making sure that these new projects that are there are completed. We need about $300 million to get them up to a level where they are complete. And once they are complete, then production of MOPANI will start rising according to our plan. Yes.
When do you intend to start, operationalizing this particular, mine?
This is this year. This, as at now, as we speak, we just signed these agreements last week, so we are in a transitional period. This year, we are putting in $100 million to complete some of it. So we have prioritized the ones that will enable us quickly get some gains, and then over time we'll work on the others. For this year, we are going to work on those that require $100 million. It's starting this year. We're not waiting.
Well, it seems like a robust plan that you already have. You're looking at the fact that we are getting into a very critical year as a country. We're already in a very critical year as a country. We're headed to the elections on the 12th of of this particular year, August, and again, clarity is needed. Mr. Chipata, clarity really is needed, and I think that's the reason why we brought you here. Clarity is needed on why some of these things are done. Many still feel that we are in a bit of a rush. Really, are we in a rush?
No, we are not in a rush. As I said to you earlier, we have a strategy. We are implementing a strategy, and I would like to encourage Zambians to go to our website and read our 5-year strategy, 2020 to 2026. This is in our strategy. We are going to increase shares in the mines. It's written. So we cannot stop implementing that strategy because this is an election year, and then people are going to say you are doing it because of elections. We are running a strategy. That's what we are doing. So there is no rush. There is an opportunity that presents itself, and you take it. You also look for other opportunities. Any businessman will know. You have to keep your eyes on the opportunity, otherwise it will miss you. It will go past you. If you sleep, the opportunity will go away. So for us, an opportunity came, and for our colleagues, we don't know whatever reasons they have at the time when they were making the decision to put the mine on campus. There were reasons for them. For us, we saw an opportunity, and it doesn't matter whether election year or no election year, we are implementing our strategy. And if another mine, if we have an opportunity with another mine, we will take it.
Besides the strategic plan to ensure that we get, much of the stake in terms of shares in most of our mines, maybe help us understand the continued strategy. You keep talking about that. You've got a lot of strategies that you've laid out for yourselves at ZCCM-IH. Maybe help us understand so we're not caught by surprise the next time you decide to have another deal.
Thank you. So just broadly speaking about what is our strategy. So in our strategy, we have said we want to focus on mining. Number two, within the mining sector, we have targeted minerals that we want to focus on. Copper, cobalt, gold, gold, the precious minerals, these battery minerals, because we are positioning ourselves for the future. We have looked at what is going to be in the future, which minerals are going to be demanded in the future we are going in. And we have said these are the minerals we will target. Copper will continue because copper is still going to be very relevant to the future. Gold, precious minerals, amethyst, emeralds, we will focus on all those. Okay? So, in terms of identifying the minerals, we know which minerals we are going to get. Number two, we have said, for the existing portfolio of companies in which we own, in which we have minority interests, 10 to 20%. What is our strategy? Number two, our strategy for those will be where there's an opportunity to acquire, to increase our shareholding, we will go for it. Where there is no such opportunity to acquire more shares, we are going to talk to our partners to change the revenue sharing model. So far, we have been relying on waiting for dividends, for them to declare a dividend, which we notice that they don't declare many of them, except a few. So what we are doing is we are moving to a situation where we are going to say to them, can we discuss something like a revenue sharing model, a royalty model? So we're already talking to a number of our partners to see if we can move away from a dividend model to a royalty model. Thirdly, in our strategy, we have said we will now go as well for greenfield investments. New mines, starting from zero. We will create our own new mines, targeting those minerals that we have indicated. So if you see then in our plan, we have a huge exploration budget. It means that we need to acquire these licenses. We need to do exploration. Exploration means we need to search for the minerals where they are. We start our own new mines, greenfield. This is our strategy. So don't be surprised if we hear that we have opened another mine, you don't be surprised. In the gold sector, we have a strategy there. We already started mining in Kasenseri. We are producing gold there. And we are getting other licenses. We have already agreed with the Bank of Zambia that they offtake our gold. And as we speak, some of the gold is sleeping in our own Bank of Zambia today. What we need to do now is to increase production. That's all we are working. Increase production. And we're asking Zambians out there, please come and join us. Come and join us. Let's work together. Sell your gold to us. It will go to the Bank of Zambia. When we produce it, will go. Once the gold is seated in the Bank of Zambia, this will help reduce the pressure on the foreign currency because gold is acceptable as reserves. So we are looking at this whole plan, how as a mining conglomerate we can help to change this economy. So this is our strategy. We are very clear about it. Where we have an opportunity to buy the mine increase, we'll buy it, or we'll create our own new mine in the minerals that we have said.
I love the fact that you brought in the issue of gold, which also sparked controversy, last year, and maybe understanding it from your standpoint and how I do know for a fact that you had announced that people could come and sell gold, especially those that are into illegal gold mining, and you came up with a framework on how they can sell the gold to you. What is the status now? Are people coming up, small mines coming up to sell the gold? And just help us understand what the gold status is now.
Yes. So yes, we did start last year, and remember we're starting from scratch. And initially, the response was weak. Now the response is actually very high. People now are freely coming to us, to sell their gold. We started with a project in Rufunsa, where we have formed cooperatives there. So we have now started buying the gold from the cooperatives in Rufunsa. We have also sent equipment in Muvi, in Petauke, as well for the cooperatives. Because in this area of gold, our model is not to be exclusive or to exclude people. Our strategy is to include people. So wherever they are operating, we will join hands with them and help them, help the artisanal miners with better equipment, better understanding of financial management, better environmental management skills. We don't want our people to be digging holes there and then they just leave them. So we are capacitating them. If you imagine that someone has, if someone has 10 grams of gold, okay, when we went into the market last year, the price at which some of our people were being paid, they were being paid as little as 200 kwacha per gram. We went in at 500 kwacha per gram. Now the market price of gold out there is in excess of 1,000 kwacha per gram. So if someone has got 10 grams, they have got 10,000 kwacha. So suddenly, someone now has got 10,000 kwacha. So we need to help to manage them, to upskill them, financial management skills and the other skills so that they can know how to use this money properly. So this is going on, and we are extending this bit by bit into Mwenirunga and the other areas. We're moving into Mumbwa shortly, again in there to work with the people. So this is starting, and our job now is to scale up the production. We are putting some of the structures in Mwenirunga, in Mumbwa. We are moving there. In Rufunsa, we want to scale up, and we want Zambians to come. They should not be afraid. Once we buy the gold will sit in the Bank of Zambia instead of them selling it.
And I was about to ask, what you found a huge challenge in terms of ensuring that the gold is sold, especially to ZCCM-IH, as opposed to other buyers that are interested in our gold. What would you say has been the major challenge in terms of this particular transaction that we're in as a country now?
Yeah, so I think the major challenge for the gold trading itself, initially people were afraid. They thought that if they come to us and say, saying good, we are going to arrest them or take them or ask them why did you fight. So we had a lot of that challenge initially. Trust. People don't trust. They think ZCCM.
But don't you do that?
Why?
When I come with God, wouldn't I be asked questions?
No, we won't ask you where did you go. We won't ask you. We just want the gold. We're not going to ask where you got it. I said, we're not going to ask you. You just come with gold, we check it. We measure, we say, oh, it is so much percentage of gold. We give you your money, you walk away. So there's no reason why anyone should be afraid. We're not going to do anything. The gold has been said, you sell this gold within this, come and sell to us. When you sell to us, you are a legitimate person. So I think initially there was a bit of, that sort of, but as time goes on, people are now beginning to see that they can actually get a better price. And you bring your gold, we pay you your money. You go.
But another critical issue is the fact that people wanting to be part of the national cake. When issues of the mines come up, most would link them to only political figures benefiting off them. But I think you've been very consistent in trying to advise Zambians to come and be part of the running of these mines through buying shares and all those things. Maybe help us understand, really, from a common average Zambian, that only gets information that is not correct in terms of how they could be part of the running of this country. In terms, those that are involved, that might want to get involved in mining. How do they come up? How do they ensure that they are part of this huge fortune that we have as a country?
Mm-hmm. There are two ways in which Zambians can be part of this directly. Of course, indirectly through the ownership we have. But one way is for them to buy shares. They can go to the Lusaka Stock Exchange, go to a broker, and buy shares. The current share price for ZCCM shares has moved to 38 kwacha now. So you can just buy the shares and wait out there. The benefits that will come from MOPANI, don't forget, MOPANI, when MOPANI makes a profit, the profit will come to ZCCM-IH. We will pay that profit, we will distribute a dividend to our shareholders, and you can be one of them. So, please, Zambians, buy shares. You can buy shares freely. No one will stop you. The second way in which we encourage you to participate in this is we know a lot of Zambians out there have licenses, either for gold, exploration licenses, or many minerals. The challenge for most of them is that they don't have money to spend to do exploration. Exploration can be it's very expensive. Don't forget, you are spending money just looking for the mineral. You don't know whether you will find something, but you have to spend the money. You have to drill holes in the ground to check whether they are minerals. So it costs money. The average Zambian cannot afford that money. So what we are saying is, come to us. If you have a license, you come to us. We partner with you, like we did with the people in our partners in Nikaseseri. These are Zambians who we have partnered with. And we, because we have got capacity to mobilize money, we are able to put in money and work with them. That way, they increase the value of their license. Don't sell your license anyhow. And I see a lot of Zambians there. They don't even know what they have. Maybe you are sitting on $1 billion worth of minerals that are on the ground, and you don't know. And you sell the license for 100,000 kwacha. Next, the person you have sold the license to creates a mine worth $1 billion. Look at that. You are better off you partner with us. We explore together, and
but very critical, because I think that we've got thousands of small miners in our country, and what you're bringing to the fore to ensure that you promote and them from being artisan miners to commercial miners is the fact that come and partner with ZCCM-IH. What is in it for them when a small miner partners with government? What is in it for them? Is it that they're getting 1%? What is the shareholding percentages like, when you partner with these small miners?
So, what we have said is, as we have said, that for our new greenfields, for our new investments, our policy is that we want to take majority control. We minimum 51%, we will take 51% shares in the company. And you will take in 49% if you want. Or any other structure that suits you. That suits both, both of us. But we have said that we want to take the majority control. So you will be a shareholder with us. We agree a funding program. So initially we have to plan. There's an exploration program. We know how much money we need to spend. We will fund that. Then yourself now, because you may not have money to put in. So we agree that once we fund that program, once we discover minerals, we'll give you a shareholding. And you will pay your share of the costs you should have incurred, or you should have paid earlier. You will pay from the profits in future. So that is the benefit. So suddenly you are a shareholder in a mine. Even if you have 10% as a shareholder in a mine worth $1 billion, and you have 10%, that's $100 million worth of your investment, than if you had sold the license for 100,000 kwacha. So I think Zambians need to see that mining is a long-term business. This is a long-term. You have to have a long-term view. You cannot do quick things. You want to quickly get. You need time to do exploration. You need time to drill. You need time to study the resource. By the time you start mining, this takes longer. But this is where the wealth is. The wealth is deep there in the ground. The longer, the deeper, the more the wealth is. We need to take this long-term view. Yep. Sometimes it can take you 5 years to develop a mine. It takes you 5 years to develop a mine. But we have got children. So you take a long-term view. Who will benefit yourself and your children in future?
But in terms of adding numbers, quickly before we could wrap up the program, how many so far have you partnered with in terms of these small miners?
If you ask me a number, I don't have a number, but we do have we do have partners. We are partners in Kasenseri. In Mumba, we are partnering with Zambians as well. So quite a number. There are a number of them as well who have come to us already, whom we are talking to after our discussions last year. I've seen Zambians are beginning to come to us, to talk to us too. But so there are a number of Zambians that we are benefiting. In Wapula, we are talking to other Zambians there whom we are partnering with as well. So yes, it's there. Zambians just come and talk to us. We will help you instead of you holding on to a license. And then someone comes and tells you, you sell me this license for 100,000 kwacha. Do you know what you are selling? Do you know what you are selling? You could be selling $1 billion worth of money. So let's, and we're a public institution. That's why you want to come and work with us. We'll talk to you and agree a structure that can work. It is time Zambians become millionaires in the mining sector. We cannot have 80% of this economy being mining and there are no Zambians who own these mines. How can it be? So yes, it hasn't happened in the past, but let's begin. Let's begin.
I'd like you to give your closing remarks, especially addressing the issue of MOPANI, the controversy surrounding it, and just getting to clear what misinformation could be there with the right information.
Thank you so much. I think what we would like our Zambians to know is that the decision we are taking, which we have taken on MOPANI, is meant for the good of the country, not only directly through ZCCM-IH, for the good of Zambians. For a long time, we continue to be minority players in a sector that should be the major sector of the country. Mining controls the economy of this country. We need to participate in there directly into the affairs of that is our natural endowment. So we are continuing to work through this MOPANI to preserve jobs, and we'll create more jobs as we increase capacity. We would like Zambians to support us. Those who would like to join us, those who have ideas on how best we can do this, please come forward. And we appreciate their comments and the excitement and the questions that they have, and we'll be happy to continue to explain. Our offices are free, are available. You can always call us. We'll be happy to explain. So let's join hands and, change the narrative for this country. There are two sectors we are dealing with. We have the gold sector. We have this sector in terms of copper and gold. These can transform this country. It's the beginning, and let's start these things now so that our children in the future can have better schools, better education. Many people here in Zambia went to school. They were funded by ZCCM. They were scholarships being funded by ZCCM. So we can do it once we harness our resources correctly. Thank you.
Mr. Mabvuto Chipata, ZCCM-IH CEO, thank you so much for having made time to appear on the assignment.
Thank you.
And making clarifications to many issues that the public needed clarifications on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to my producer and director, Mabvuto Piri. My name is Andrew Mansa. For now, good night and God bless Zambia.